Today we're installing a K&N air filter on a 2011 Ford F-150 with a 5.0 liter motor in it. This is K&N part number 63-2581. And what we're going to do now is the same thing we always do. We're going to do a little unboxing video here, what comes in the kit. So on your installation, you'll have a hardware kit that comes with it, seal for the air box itself, couple couplers, the K&N lifetime oiled air filter, intake tube, the box or the air box adapter lid that will actually mount on your stock air box, and your instructions for install. So let's go ahead and get started with our installation. First step in our K&N installation today is we're going to take both battery cables off the battery. Okay, with your negative cable of your battery unhooked, first thing that you're going to do is you're going to disconnect the mass airflow sensor. Underneath of the mass airflow sensor on the bottom side here, there's a red locking tab. You just pull the red locking tab towards you, and then up on the connector here, you'll be able to squeeze the connector and pull the connector right off the mass airflow sensor. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect the crankcase vent, and the crankcase vent, to disconnect it, it'll actually be on the bottom side where ours was. I don't know how yours will be. So what we did is we just rotated it around. It'll actually turn inside the vent there. And the gray plastic locking tab there, you just push it up and over, and that'll unlock the locking tab. And then we can take the crankcase vent hose right away from the intake horn. Next, you're going to disconnect the intake hose from the evap check valve right here. You remove it from the underneath side. Okay, now we're going to lift the intake tube out. What we're going to do is, first off, we're going to loosen at the throttle body here, 5/16 nut driver. Go ahead and loosen that up. Give yourself a little room to work there. All right. Next, we're going to come over to the air box. 3 clips on the air box. Unhook all 3 of the clips, and we'll just go ahead and open the air box up. Disconnect the intake from the tube and lift the entire assembly out at one time. Remove your stock air filter. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to install our filter adapter into our heat shield. So on our heat shield, just install your filter adapter. Pretty easy stuff here. 4mm Allen head bolt. We got a lock washer. And a 5/8 inch flat washer. And that's our hardware to install it. Same thing on the other side. Now we're going to install our edge trim onto the box. Your edge trim will come in one continuous piece. I didn't like the way the corners were cutting on it, So what I did is I put mine into a couple different sections here, and it worked just the same. I'm going to seal the box up just fine. Okay. Alright, now that'll create our seal with the hood. Now our bottom trim, what we're going to do with our bottom trim is we're going to cut it into two 9-inch sections. Now your edge trim on the bottom of your box is actually going to go on your side. So you'll cut two 9-inch sections, and both of those sections will go on either side of the air box itself. Okay. Okay. Our final step here is we're going to go ahead and install our filter onto our filter adapter. It goes all the way onto the adapter. Then you turn your fastener up, turn your hose clamp up to where you can get to it, just like so, and go ahead and tighten it down. Now we're going to install our air box onto our stock factory box. What we're going to do first off is we're going to remove this center locking clip, just kind of angle it up, and then it push, and it'll just push right out. Now we're going to install our air box itself into the tabs, into the factory locating tabs. Okay. Okay. And that's perfectly normal to have a gap between the bottom of the air box, because that's actually sitting inside, the air box is actually sitting inside this lip on the retaining clip, so the gap underneath here is perfectly normal. Okay, now we're going to install our couplers. Our straightaway coupler, which actually has a part number on it, it's an 08630, is your coupler that's actually going to go on your throttle body. I just went ahead and installed a couple of clamps on there, and we went straight to the throttle body there. Again, we're going to leave everything loose here for our install till we get everything installed. Then we'll start tightening down. Our next coupler is the bellow one. It's 084057. We install both of our clamps on it, and we're going to go ahead and install that onto the filter adapter and get ready for the installation of our intake tube. We're going to put together our intake tube now. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put our mass airflow sensor in. You got to remove the mass airflow sensor from your stock set unit. These are T20s to remove it. There's your mass airflow sensor removed. Okay, now first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our gasket onto our filter adapter, our K&N filter adapter. So to install the gasket, what you've got to do here is you just got to line everything up to make sure that it's going the correct direction. Go ahead and pull the sticky off of the backing off the sticker here, off the gasket or the seal. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and install our mass airflow sensor onto the adapter. There's two hardware, three metric Allen screws that K&N provided with your kit for installing your mass airflow sensor. Okay. Now you install your mass airflow sensor into the intake tube. You want your opening towards the filter side, which would be opening away from the evap tubes. So 2 flat washers, and these are 4 metric hardware screws again. Okay, snug everything back down there, make sure we're good to go. All right, now we're going to install our 3/8 push-on fitting here. These are plastic threads, so they're very easy to cross thread, so be very careful installing them. The 3/8 push lock fitting is actually the one that will be closest to the mass airflow sensor, and then our quick connect fitting for the crankcase filter, or I'm sorry, for the crankcase line is the one that goes as far as down the line. Just screw it in hand tight, and we'll give them a couple turns with a wrench. Just nothing too serious. Don't want to break them off. But there's our intake tube put together. Now we're going to go ahead and install our intake tube. Mass airflow sensor goes closest to the intake, like so. Then connect it into the throttle bike spacer. Okay. Go ahead and tighten everything up once everything's installed. Then we're going to hook up our crankcase vent. And what you'll have to do with the crankcase vent, you'll actually have to turn it about a quarter of a turn back upwards, and don't force it, but it will hook right back on to the quick connect line there. All right, then make sure everything on it locks back down, so you're good to go there. Now all we've got to do is hook up our line to our evap canister, and K&N provides you with a hose for that. Just go ahead and attach to the evap canister here, and then our line on the bottom of our tube. It's all push to lock connection. So there, that concludes our install of our K&N intake filter on our 2011 5.0. I'm going to go back through and double check all my connections, but should be good on everything. And you can see how this kind of looks in the engine compartment. Once your hood closes, this will create the seal on the box. Before you start the truck, again, remember, hook back up your negative battery cable, reconnect your negative battery cable, and your installation is complete. Thanks for watching.